Are you looking for a personalized Moroccan experience? Merhaba, and welcome to Destinations Morocco. I am your host, Azadine El Mustaki. Our family-run company crafts private and small group tours to my beautiful homeland. We encourage you to choose your own adventure. Let us know what you would like to see, what you would like to do, and how you'd like to experience it. We put together a tour based on your interests and priorities. The podcast is here to help you find ideas and inspirations. Let us plan your perfect Moroccan tour. Schedule a free 30-minute discovery call today at destinationsmorocco.com.
There is about 10 kilometers of walls and 10 doors that would go. Yeah, gates. Now we have the walls, the ramparts, and we have the gates.
The gates is what we see.
So the gate, and we have small gates, we have a large gate and big gates, because you cannot enter the Medina only from several gates. And then when even, for example, nowadays, if you have a car, you cannot go in the Medina with the car. So you leave it outside the walls in a parking. So you have to move because Medinas are free from car traffic. So this is why that we enter the Medina, you start to have a labyrinth series of the alleyways, and this is the serpentine movement. But if you look at the Medinas like this, normally the Medinas are representing what is historical, what is traditional, and what is indigenous, because this is something to do with the native. It is something remarkable, like a multicultural society. We have what we call the Amazigh or the Berber, we have what we call also the Andalusian, we have what we call the Arab. So it is representing what is Islamic, but there is different ethnic groups, and even the Jewish in a time used to have their own districts and neighborhoods. Before we are going to cross later to see the Mellah, but before the Mellah, we have districts and areas where the Jewish will live in within the Medina. So also the Christian, you have also a number of their own buildings, historical buildings, but particularly that house or that convent, that monastery, this is called the Franciscan Nuns School. And this is the place where a lot of women inside the Medina have learned quite a lot of skills. Embroidery, design, paramedical, education. So they have a lot of disciplines where the nuns have taught, especially to women. But also we find something, because it is Islamic area, we talk also about Islamic gardens. So that we have an Islamic garden in the outside, even though that it was done by the French. So mean that the type of the French, the Islamic garden are different from the English type of the garden. Because here we have also theater, we have a zoo, we have a place for the picnics, we have a lot of the things to do with the culture of the Islamic culture in general. So in brief, this is a UNESCO heritage. There is more than 10,000 houses there. There's a great number of old buildings, what we call sometimes Riyadh, Andar, or a big house. We have also the people are living quite together. This is a place for commerce and artisanal work. This is the place, so this is a place for living and also for working and also for practicing different other functions like relation, education, and artisanal work in general. So this is particularly one of the facades, one of the importance, one of the function of our historical Medinas, and it is a particular example which we have here. That's one thing I will say, that if the Medina look from a high distance, it seems like a beehive, because all the houses are interconnected with each other. But they say that all the honey is inside, not outside, because normally you can see nothing from the outside, only when you are discovering the luxury, which means that we talk about inward focus. We focus mainly in the interior of the building, and we have later a good example when we go to see the mosque and the mausoleum, to see how a mausoleum, a shrine, a palace normally is developed from the interior of the building. So what we'll do later, we are going to cross all these walls. We go outside, we see an extension of the outside because the Medina now is limited. There is no more space for building more houses within. Then we see also extra buildings with the other gate before getting to the Jewish area, which we call the Mellah. From the Mellah, there is another area leading directly to the fortress, which is the Kasbah. And we can see that either the Kasbah, the Medina, or the Jewish area are separate, but they are in continuous relation when they get to the center, which means that every community has its own separate area from the other. Then we have to see, later we'll go back to the same square if you are interested to go to see also the market area, part of the Medina, and also one of the museums of the city of Meknes. By the way, this is the Jewish area, and now they are still continuing the restoration. The restoration had started in 2019. But you know what happened in 2019? There is the COVID, so they have to stop almost 1 year and a half. And now they are only continuing the restoration and the work, which is totally difficult, especially that this is a UNESCO heritage.
Yeah, for sure.
And whenever there is a UNESCO heritage, the UNESCO is all the time asking to pay attention, not to change, not to modernize. And you have even to go very slowly, even in the architecture and designing, in order not to change anything about the spirit. You have to keep the spirit the same, the authenticity. It is what is important about such building. From this view, you can see from here, you can see the old Mellah, this is the old Jewish quarter. This is dating back to the 15th century, when the Jewish were settled for the first time over there after coming from the Medina. And who granted this land is the Sultan, because the Sultan wanted to approach them to get them too near to his palace, either for protection or because the Jewish were all the time involved in many other special political and commercial activities for the Sultan himself. Then when the Jewish start to grow in the number, so they have a second Mellah, which started from 1912 to 1920, which is also the period of the French during the colonial period, because the number of the Jewish before 1948 was almost 25,000 Jewish living only in Meknes. And we used to have one of the best organized Jewish community, or even of rabbis, because we have a lot of Jewish schools and synagogues which happen to be here from the 15th century forward, which showed that Meknes was in a time one of the most important residential area of a lot of the Jewish. And by the way, when we talk about the Jewish in Morocco, we talk also about the Toshavim, which are the Jewish who came from Palestine after the destruction of the temple. Then also we talk about the Migorashim, the one who came from Spain. And this is the name given to them, is Sepharad, the Sephardic. So that this is the Sephardic, largely we are living here, and they are totally from the other European or East Europe, Jewish called Ashkenazi. So this is the particularity of Morocco, that you have one of the best, one of the most important, one also of the most historical Jewish communities as they live right here. By the way, we have the Mellah. This is leading almost directly to the old one. Let's go to the shade, and we can see even better. They're just now preparing to open the gate, but they have not as yet finished. The name of this gate is Bab al-Khamis. Bab al-Khamis, meaning Thursday gate.
Can you say
Thursday.
why they name it Bab al-Khamis?
Even in Marrakech there is Thursday gate, there is another in Fez. Khamis is a very special day for the Jewish and the Muslim, because it has a religious connotation and reference. Because normally the Jewish prepare for the Sabbath from Thursday. Because on Friday they used to go to the cemetery to light the candle, and then you have to visit the cemeteries over there and to visit their tzaddikim, which is the rabbis. The Muslim do the same thing, because the Muslim prepare for Friday, Jumu'ah. It is like the Muslim Sabbath. It have to, which means Muslim and Jewish have to come on Thursday. And see the reason that they say that the Jewish and the Muslims should not be seen in the market between Friday and Saturday, and they need to come on Thursday. And this is one particular evident reason that they call the Jewish area or the gates as Bab al-Khamis.
So there was market.
There was a market day, a market
Thursday.
Yeah, every Thursday, because this is, because normally, the Jewish have to prepare for a food, which is called the Sabbath meal. And the Sabbath meal have to be prepared. You have to buy the meat and they have everything. And it's very special, because also that the Jewish don't cook on the Sabbath, which means that they have to prepare. The Muslim they cook, but the Muslim also go to the cemeteries, which means that there is some shared tradition between the Jewish. Even though the Jewish Mellah is there, it is only particularly to preserve their culture, their history, their education, and a lot of things to do with the Jewish custom. But otherwise, the Jewish can move from the Mellah to the Medina and elsewhere, which means that this is how there is coexisting, and there is total tolerance between Muslim and Jewish all together. So also one thing I would like to explain, that there is a text, because Islam normally they don't use iconography or they don't use statues, but they use calligraphy. I'd explain what is written there. It is in Al-Bab al-Sa'id, it is called, I am the happy gate, open to all the people either from the Orient or from the Occident. I am the happy gate, similar to my beauty to the full moon on the sky. I was built by Moulay Isma'il, because it is dating back to the 17th century. The prosperity and the fortune are written on my friends. I am surrounded with beauty. This shows that calligraphy, floral design, and this is also the other motif of symmetries and design. These are part of the Islamic art. This is why that the facade of the gate, it is quite similar to the interior decoration of building from the inside. We have what is floral, what is digital, what is epigraphic, and what is geometrical. All the elements, especially when they are using the Moroccan tiles and the Moroccan gellige on the Moroccan mosaics in the outside. Let's go a little bit inside it and we go from the other side. Just one thing here, just to see that once we move from Bab al-Khamis, the Jewish area, we enter automatically to the Jewish place, which is called the Mallah. And the Mallah is a name which is shared for all the Jewish quarters in all Morocco. You go even to small villages in the Sahara, in desert, we find called also the Mallah. We don't know exactly, but probably the Mallah, it is something to do with the activities of the Jewish, probably salting fruit, salting many other kind of vegetable, and it is mainly naming, it is in Hebrew, it is called salt. But many others say that probably it could be as a Hebrew name, it means Ahl Mallah, which means the people of religion. And this is something to do with the Islamic, the Muslim now, that you have to protect even the Jewish place. This is according to the Prophet that you have to respect all the other religion and all the other civilization and other culture. This is why they say Ahl Mallah means the people of religion, and they are all the time required the respect and the protection from the other. And it's why that the name is still seen in such a way, in such a manner. In this part of the Mallah, we have the old Mallah, where now no Jewish are living there. But only we have traces of old synagogues and the places where the Jewish have their own trade and their commerce. Largely now the population who have been owning the houses are Muslim families. But the good thing that now Jewish are coming from Israel. They are coming from South America, and they have their ancestors who have already lived there in a certain time. But explain something very good, that the Muslims there are ready to open their houses to the new visitor, because the people are claiming that to see where their ancestors had lived and what type of activities they were entertaining, where they were populating largely the Mallah. But look at this side here of the new Mallah is totally different, because it is more modern as a quarter. If you want to see the shade, this is here. This is a new quarter if we compare it to the old Mallah. Because this is starting, the first houses here started in 1920. The first synagogue is 1930. And also we have Talmud Torah, which is a very important yeshiva school. Yeshiva in the Jewish means a school for the teaching of Torah and Talmud, like a high college. When you are moving from the madrasa, as we call it, which is a small area for teaching. Like the Muslim use Quranic school. You move from the Quranic school to the yeshiva school, and yeshiva, it is where you start to learn something about the Talmud and the Torah studies. Then you are preparing yourself to become a rabbi. So this is why they say that the Torah, Meknes was an area for the masters of the Torah in Morocco. So also you can see the small balconies, because they see that the first families to use balconies were Jewish. Moroccan architecture is protecting more intimacy and privacy, so they don't make balconies outside, but they make them inside. So it is quite easily, you can quite distinguish where the Jewish are living from where the Muslims are living, just by the type of the building, the construction, and the presence of balconies in the outside facade of their houses and their own building. So I mean that this is how the modern architecture started to be introduced, especially during the colonial period when the French were here. And by the way, in 1990, we still have only 400 Jews still living here. 400 in 1990. Actually, there is only between 20,000, because slowly they start to go to Israel, to South America and elsewhere. They start to be called by international organization. This is why the Moroccan never liked that the Jewish live, because the parts of the Jewish mean an economic crisis, because they were holding most of the business and most of the culture, and probably they had also, this is something to prove, that they have the best education as well. As is the reason that they were so near to the Sultan, and they were having a lot of businesses all around. But taking their business, emptying the Mallah, means a big crisis to be happening to the Moroccan in a certain time or a certain period. Actually, we don't have more than 20 Jewish still living here. Persons, not families. Which means that we have only about 7 or 10 families still living here. The only good thing that now we have families are coming back that to visit in a hilula. A hilula means a Muslim or a festival, and we have a lot of rabbis, very important, like Berdigo. This is Raphael Berdigo, is buried in the old cemetery, in the historical cemetery. It is a very famous man and a master of the Torah, quite known all over Israel, and now they are coming even to visit his tombs here. But we have another family, it's called the Toledano. The Toledano, but the Toledano are not much religious, but they are more business. So they have a lot of business in Morocco. This is the Toledano family, and we still have a lot of members in the community of the Israelites, especially what we call the Universal Alliance Schools. Alliance School, Universal Alliance Schools. Because we know that the Jewish at the time, they separate men from women in education. And that even women don't get educated like probably the Muslim were doing. But later with the French, when they come, they start to establish modern schools, and they are called Alliance Universal Israeli schools. And the women start to come to the school to study. This is why largely how the women, the Israeli women, start to have their share and part of education. And this is quite famous now because still we have these schools here in the Mellah. Nothing had changed because still we have synagogues, even though they are closed. We still have the patrimony, the cultural heritage, the Jewish heritage is very virtual, which means that is still very important and is still largely existing right here. Okay? Now,
You said Hilula.
Hilula.
Celebrated anywhere else in the world or just in Morocco?
Now it is around the world. But normally, particularly the word Hilula is a Hebrew word, means a festival. What we know that they have also Hilula in Tunisia, because they go to Carthage, they have also in the Hara, because the Jewish call the Mellah, they call it the Hara. Because the Hilula, it is something normally, it is a Maghrebin, we can call it North African. Because the Jewish of Israel, the Jewish, but probably if it is a Hilula, probably could do it also in Poland, they can do it something, but the word could be just a little bit. But the Hilula is a very important, nowadays, we still have a lot of Jewish coming every year, but in separate times, because they go also to Wazan, they go also to Titwan, they go also to Tangier, they go to Rabat, because there is a lot of tzaddikim. But largely also in Fez and Marrakesh, because there is more than 600 Jewish rabbis are buried in these cemeteries. Meknes, we have a very important also number of these tzaddikim in Meknes.
There is Hilula and there is Hanukkah.
Hilula is the name of the Muslim. It is like called Muslim. Mehula. But Hanukkah is a festival, like we see, for example, the end of Ramadan, for example, for us. It is Hanukkah. We can call Sukkot, there is Kippur, there is Yom Kippur, there is here. There is like also Mimuna. You can see Mimuna, for example, these are festival. We see that they are time. Hanukkah, it is like a time for celebration. Like Passover also, which is coming in a certain period of time. Which means that they are religious festival, the name of the religious festival celebrated by the Jewish community in Morocco. There's a prayer hall, and most of the masjid, or masjid is a place for the prayer, for prostration. They have most quoted the model of Cordoba mosques or Damascus mosques. They are called T-form or hypostyle, because they have a large open area. They have a mihrab, which is shown in the eastern direction, and then we have another covered area, which is now a funeral complex. When we are going to go inside, we find where the sultan was buried and in a shrine. The mausoleums normally existed thousands of years ago with our civilization, and give examples of the pyramids in Egypt and with the pharaohs. These are called also mausoleums. Then we talk also about the Taj Mahal. You know, Taj Mahal in India, with the Mumtaz Mahal, when she died, her husband wanted to bury her in a very lavish and elegant area. Then we were to talk also about the king Mausoleus, it is a Greek. When he died, his wife also loved him. She ordered that his body should be buried in a high elevated area. And his name is called Mausoleus. This is the name, the source of the name later developed. Which means that Moroccan as a culture, we are honoring and cherishing deeply the memory of our leaders. Either we have political or even very simple. Because you know that we have a lot of patron saints, a lot of zawiyas in Morocco. And there is a very famous person even buried here. I don't know, we don't know, Abdurrahman al-Majdoub. Abdurrahman al-Majdoub is buried there on the right. It is there. This Abdurrahman al-Majdoub is a poet, mystic poet, and is a Sufi, and is like the Rumi in Turkey, the Rumi or Jalal Rumi is there. Moulay Isma'il wanted to be buried next to him because he was buried, this one, in the 15th century. Moulay Isma'il was buried only on the 18th century. So that he wanted his tomb to be near for protection. I mean, that is the reason that we have a lot of Sufi brotherhood and tombs in certain parts of the Muslim and Zawiyas here. This is the official sanctuary where the Sultan is buried. But we have the funeral chamber is over there. We have just a place here where the people can pray because there is a mihrab. Because when the people make a visit, they also come to pray as well. Sometimes individual, sometimes collective. But now we don't make collective prayers. Every man comes to pray here individually, different from the other. Also, this is a place for education and learning. It's a place for reciting the Quran and learning to memorize the Quran. Because we have a third room from the other side, which is serving like a school, or like, for example, called madrasa. But it is masjid, but it is also Quranic school. But we have also a library or a cabinet for books. And also the place which is a little bit rectangular, where the imams are sitting on Friday. On the top of them, there is like the genealogical tree to represent the origin of this dynasty, which is Sharifian. When we call Sharifian, they are claiming back to the Prophet of Islam, which means that everything about their origin, from the king, Muhammad VI, back to the Prophet, is written there. It's the reason that we call the king the commander-in-chief in religion, or the Amir al-Mu'minin. That this is why we see the double function of the sultan between what is political, as a ruler, as a leader, but it is also the head of the state in what concerns religion, because of his Sharifian birth and noble origin. Also, the decoration here is sometimes making a reflection to what is Andalusian or Moorish. So when you see the Moorish, they are the Moors who came from here and they go to Spain and come back. So this is the time when a lot of the Andalusian normally were rejected and they were expelled. This is why that the architecture here is quite reminiscent to what we find in the south of Spain, in Andalusia, in the other Andalusian provinces. That we find also the beauty of the marble, the carved marble, we find the jolis, we find the plaster, we find all the noble materials are used around that to make a beautiful interior design. So also we can see also that the fountain in the middle, this is very special, which is also, this is oblong, it is octagonal. All the time it is only decorative. But sometimes the water is gushing to show that the motion, when the water is gushing in motion, means the dynamic of life. Which means that you come to wash, to clean, and to detach yourself, and they bring the energy for meditation. So you see the purpose of having water almost everywhere when we come right here. It is religious, but it is artistic and aesthetic at the same time. And this is the reflection of art and design, as Morocco was open to different influences. That the multitude of influences we find especially in the architectural products which we see so often in many type of the buildings. But look also here that we have also the plaster work. The plaster work, it is plaster, but sometimes it is stucco. And stucco is only the powder of the marble mixed with lime. It takes the higher position, but it is also make the carving of the friezes in certain part of the building. And so often it is used also for other decoration of stalactite and stalagmite. So these are also other design which have other geometrical and floral motifs in the architecture. Then we have also in the cover, everything is covered from the top because cedar wood is above eye level. We use it to the door, of course, but we use it on the ceiling. This is why we see above eye level, you have to look up in order to see the cedar, either in the galleries or the rooftop or the canopies. This is the importance of the decoration used, especially with carving cedar wood. And wood is carved and painted and sculpted in the same time. So that the doorway is here, and also we can see that over there are graves, over there behind there are graves. On Friday, all the families who have members buried here, they can come. So they open this door for them. It is only on Friday. Because here they come just to pay homage and they have to make a visit like we do normally in other cemeteries for our members of the family. But these are more not only royal, but these only sometimes have affiliation. They have some origin, they are going back to where the Sultan was living. And Meknes is no wonder because Meknes was the center of the Alaouite at the beginning, and we have very extended families, which means that we have a lot of descendants which are still living here, even though that many of them are very poor, they are not rich. But still they are called Alaouites and could have a right to be buried once they die in such a place. Shurfa. Now, by the way, that they call it Shurfa, but this is the Sharifian origin. But look at the mosaics here. This is one of the most important because the mosaics also they are using and taking different forms. Sometimes small circle, sometimes rectangulars, sometimes also we can find for some small squares, and sometimes different types of the point and stars, which means that we have different motif, polygonal as well. And stars, so this is and also crosses, so this is the type of the element of the design you are using in this typical form of the mosaic here. Which means that when you are making, this is the mathematical fashion that you have to bring pieces, one piece when the other. And then you are making a theme or you are making a subject. And the type that you are using more the time a subject which is more symbolical and significant, other than using what is normally creature or images or representation. It means that the mosaics are representing the typical form of the abstract art. Everything is abstract, and this is the motif we are using in such a thing. By the way, some people probably want to come around here. Let's go and explain what is over there. So in a time it was an old one, but now it is only decorated. It is a restoration of the panels, but it is in a time also using from the mausoleum, from the southern area where there is Dar al-Makhzen, where there is the palace, then where there is the shrine, because this shrine itself used to be only a royal mosque before the sultan chose it to become a burial ground. Then from the other side we are moving also to get to military areas, because this is how they are dividing every place. Because from there, the goes where also the guards and the other members of the army called the Gish. The Gish, it is called the army. It is the Gish, sometimes they are Berber, or they are Arabs, or they are also African. But also the Sultan had made, this is Habsqara, this is the underground dungeon, this is the prison that the Sultan had made on the 17th century for a great number of his enemies and also a lot of rebels, and sometimes also from certain kidnapped European which were taken by the Salih rovers. Normally it is a very, not we say dark, but it is something, a lot of the thing is not understandable about this prison. Because till now it is said to be a prison without doors and without windows. And it could be that it is more than 30 kilometers in the underground. And there is a lot of labyrinth and a lot of the tunnels where are leading almost to nowhere. This is why that there is a lot of the stories say that it is totally haunted and blocked in a certain time, that to stop any person to get in, to get lost or to be erring in the middle, because it is like a dark, somber catacomb in the underground of the place. This is also a place where we have also a pavilion. That pavilion we call it the pavilion of the ambassadors. Qubbat Sufara. Qubbat Sufara means the pavilion of but the ambassadors here are the ones who are coming to negotiate the money, the ransom of the prisoners. This is why the Sultan have sponsored piracy, because he wanted to have European prisoners to sell them back with a big sum of the money that should be treated in the same political diplomatic footing. And the reason that they have this very special thing about piracy and how the Sultan was organizing and even sponsoring and advocating the presence of piracy in Morocco. Even though it is not Moroccan, but it was Turkish and Ottoman at the beginning. It is actually under restoration, but they are restoring only the visible parts, because it is still blocked, and it was blocked in a certain period of time. And not far from here we have the Gulf Royal. It is also the Royal Gulf. Normally on Monday, this is Monday, they close it, but it is only among the many gardens that the Sultan used to have. In 1970, they changed it to a gulf with 9 holes, and it is still surrounded with walls and a beautiful area where also they say that even that the people can play golf here at night, because it is all equipped with light from every corner. It is so small, very particular, but not as majestic and important as the one in Marrakesh or the one normally also in Rabat. But this is very unique in its own concept of playing golf within.
Thank you for joining me on Destination Morocco podcast today. I truly hope this episode brought you a little closer to the heart and soul of Morocco. And remember, the stories and sounds you hear on the podcast are just the beginning. If you're feeling inspired and ready to experience Morocco's incredible culture, breathtaking landscapes, and genuine hospitality firsthand, let Destinations Morocco create your unique, personalized journey. Visit destinationsmorocco.com to explore tour ideas, listen to past episodes, and most importantly, book your free discovery call today and start planning. Until next time, Bislama, thank you, and goodbye.